कुछ मुख्तलिफ मिजाज रखता हूँ, कल के सपनों को आंखों में आज रखता हूँ. This was a case study.
And in about 5 to 6 years, it went from
0 to
2000
2000 that time. Read a few individuals who were controlling that killed that business. That pain of coming out of it and then going and exposing them for a suspected fraud which was happening in that company in terms of money being siphoned out of the country was a decision which is similar to you deciding to amputate one of your leg because it got extreme cancerous disease. अगर चाहता तो बन बैठा होता बड़ी रियासतों का वजीर मैं, पर मेरे लहजे में जी हुजूरियां न थीं, न है, न होंगी.
We're talking about Tata, a conglomerate wherein getting something new done is not easy. That too in a business wherein they have been a champions.
Yep.
Right? So you're telling a champion that, probably you need to do it this way.
We built a first and the largest brand of Reebok in the country, and today that category is almost 100% branded. What you need to do is to identify a real problem, and then you need to create a very innovative, implementable solution of that problem.
There's a normal food that we are getting, normal vegetables that we are getting. Then there is a GM version of it. Then there is a hybrid version. Then there is an organic version. And then there is something called pesticide free.
In terms of quality of food, we are one of the poorest because there are substances being used in processing which are banned in developed countries. We are getting genome sequencing done and linking your nutrition plan to the science of genome sequencing and physical well-being plan and disease prevention plan. So there is a very small I know and also a very small I know I don't know. The biggest is I don't know that I don't know. मुझे विरासत में मिली है सिर्फ अना, सेल्फ एस्टीम. मुझे विरासत में मिली है सिर्फ अना, इसलिए सर पर गुरूर ताज रखता हूँ.
Welcome to the next episode of CXO Speak, wherein we talk to the CXOs, experts, and entrepreneurs and try to understand the mindset that helps them do what they have done. What does it take to create a 2000 plus crores business and walk away from it just to build something which is based on trust rather than anything else? Today we are going to be talking to Mr. Santosh Srivastava, an IIT BHU alumni, a multi-venture entrepreneur, and a CXO who has built big jewelry and retail businesses, has worked with 50 plus brands, and is working on agromart and agrotech business as we speak. Apart from being a CXO and an entrepreneur, he is supporting multiple businesses and startups as a mentor. Let's get into detail with the way he works and the mindset that helps him do what he's doing. So let's get started. Welcome, Santoshi, to our
Thanks, Arun,
podcast,
thanks.
CXO Speak. This is a podcast wherein we talk to the people who have been CXOs and who are building businesses, and we talk about business, building business, and the mindset that a CXO brings. You would see every person has a different way of working, but there is a typical type of mindset which kind of supports or breaks an organization. And the discussion around CXO Speak is majorly about what is it that I am bringing, in terms of the mindset, may it be with respect to finance or technology or operations, but majorly about the leader, what kind of mindset he brings in.
Absolutely privileged here to sit with you, Arun, and talk. And I hope in this conversation we do leave some learnings for the audiences. So basically CXO is the head of the family of the organization, and as head of the family, there are certain things which are required, which is one, you are absolutely unbiased. You're not biased by your own opinions. You need to hear what the customers are saying. You need to hear what your team members are saying. You need to hear what competition is doing, and then frame your strategies as that. So as a CXO, I think it's very important that your ears are grounded. You're listening to all the listening post which is there, and that is something which will help you to come up with right strategy and right tactics to build your business.
Interesting. So before we get into the details about the experience, and you bring a lot of experience on the table for whosoever you work for, either as a mentor or as a as an entrepreneur or as a consultant for that matter. Uh, but when I was doing a bit of research about the kind of work that you have done, I think one thing that I noticed was that as a millennial, you had the typical studies and the first job, which is what a wannabe millennial would have wanted. Uh, Millennials, while growing up, always wanted to see that they are getting the best of the education with the top institutions of the country and a big conglomerate, a big brand. And I think that is where the life is settled. So in your case, coming in from a family in Allahabad, getting into IIT at Banaras, and starting your career with Tatas, was it a dream come true? How did it happen? What was the story around that?
See, I would say that God has been kind. I don't know how, but God has been kind, and I have always found myself at right place at right time. That's how He makes it happen. So I would not say that it was my childhood dream to get into ITs. Probably early young age, I wanted to be a sports person, a cricketer to be more specific. Then that early schooling stage, probably wanted to get into administration because a lot of families, extended family members were IS and IPS officers. But then how it happened is was above average student, but I would not call myself a topper in any school. It happened that during 10th, 11th, 12th, got interested in IIT JEE when my friends told me about it. Prepared for a year or two while studying 11th, 12th also and got through that. So I've been lucky to get into JEE. Not of, including me, and a lot of friends and relatives, but never expected that I would crack the IIT JEE. So it happened. God has been kind, and then 4 wonderful years in IIT BHU Banaras, where you connect to culture. Very fantastic education is there, and that city is vibrant and holy city. So wonderful time there, and then lucky to get into organization like Tata. I had quite a few other offers also, but decided to choose Tata. And those Tata 11 years have been wonderful. So I call Tata Steel also as my alma mater because that's is the learning experience which was there, and I've been lucky to be in right team at right time. Again, God has been kind. I've been given the roles and the assignment which probably was I was not expecting, but I got those somehow, and it was a wonderful learning there. Those 11 years.
Even today, somebody getting in through IIT and IIM seems to be a big thing, and hence, from a startup world perspective as well, it is one of the most important requirement of a playbook when somebody was to raise funds. Uh, so, you know, doing an IIT from Banaras Hindu University, working with businesses like, say, Tata in the early stages, what were the key learnings, or the growth mindset, or the mindset of governance for that matter? What is it that helped you? What is it that you've learned during those, the first stint of being with IIT and the first stint of Tata's, that has been with you still now, that has helped you in every work that you've done? May it be building businesses, may it be mentoring, entrepreneurs.
So one, as I said earlier, lucky to be part of the Tata Group as a alma mater also, not only as a professional organization. Then was lucky to be with the bosses who were there, and there was one thing which I still remember. There was an advertisement says of Tata Steel saying where you come first, and you was customer. So that's the biggest learning, that everything in the business has to be around the customers. So where customer comes first. So that is one learning which has stuck with me, that whenever you are designing a business model or a business process, you have to keep customer at the center of it. Things from the customer's perspective, that what would customer like to hear, what would customer like to buy, what would customer like to pay for, and design your business model. It's not that what you want to do. What you want to do has to be designed in a way that what is customer wants, that's what you're addressing. So that is the biggest learning. And apart from that, getting exposure to various new technologies, implementing ERP like SAPs, building multiple IT systems to support businesses, creating and the launching the brands like Tata Tiscon, and then building the entire India's distribution network. And Tata Tiscon happens to be the first brand in the category of rebar, and it was all commodity before that. So rebar was sold as saria,
Yeah.
in the kgs,
Yeah.
and we were the first one in Tata Steel to brand it as. And it gives me goosebumps when I still remember that, and those were the wonderful days. So first one, when we presented the idea, a lot of seniors were actually skeptical about it, and I could hear few things like saying, "You IIT IM guys talk are too theoretical. What are you talking about branding in Saria? That goes inside the concrete. So it's not shirt where you put a emblem, or it's not a watch where you put a logo and it becomes a brand." So then we talked about Intel Inside concept, how when you buy your laptops and computers, you ask what is the chip inside. So that is the kind of branding concept which we used, and said that this is the kind of branding which we want to create for Tata Tiscon, and this has been a case study.
I think this is an interesting thing that you touched upon. The Tata Tiscon is a beautiful, case study for anybody to read, specifically about getting an acceptance done. We are talking about Tata's a conglomerate wherein getting something new done is not easy. That too in a business wherein they have been a champions. Right, so you're telling a champion that probably you need to do it this way, and you rightly picked it. So there is this question that you see this in today's world as well, wherein I want to do innovation, maybe as an employee or as an entrepreneur, it doesn't make a difference, but I need to have an acceptance of what I'm trying to work on. That too in a business like Tata's, because this Tata Tiscon case seems to be a very fascinating one when I look at it today. But I'm sure it would not have been very easy. What were those strategies and work that you did, wherein you could actually get them to say that, okay, let's just try it out?
Oh, you're absolutely right, Arun. I mean, though Tata, I would call that they are the change agents of the industries in the country, and they have many firsts, so to say, bringing in policies, whether it is HR policies, bringing up branding in the industrial goods, and a lot of firsts to their credit. But even because it's a large organization, and there are people with various thought process, with various mindsets which are there, so it is very difficult for a young team to put across an idea that we want to create a FMCG kind of a brand, in a Lux kind of a brand, or Hindustan Lever kind of a brand in the steel category, that too in rebars, which was sold as commodity. So yes, initial resistance was there, but I think the seniors, the decision makers, were very, very open-minded. They were always ready for new initiatives, new challenges. But yes, it did took us a lot of convincing our team to put across the idea that this is the future of branding, and the commodities are slowly and steadily going to get branded. The branding culture was coming in the India, so we could put across our ideas. We got the initial okay, we got the small team for market research and some budget sanction. Then we put together a business plan in place, and then it's a case study. It's a case study. We built a first and the largest brand of rebars in the country, and today that category is almost 100% branded. It was 100% unbranded category at that time. This actually completely changed the category on its head, and now today nobody can think of selling a rebar without branding. So even the smaller players, probably there are 100 plus brands now in the country, and everybody is selling it as a brand. Though very few are following that, the model which we innovated and invented, but everybody is in that race of creating a brand in rebar.
No, that's interesting. From working in businesses, a business like Tata Steel, for that matter, which is heavily process driven, heavily governance driven, and a scaled business already, to coming in and working with a business like Gitanjali, which to us is, one can say that it was a startup when you joined that, right? Because most of it was a concept.
I would call it a Lala company at that time. though the division which I joined and created is like a startup, I created it like a startup. And coincidentally, I had already taken a decision to leave Tata Steel and start something of my own because that entrepreneurial bug had already bitten. So was thinking of doing something of my own, was talking to some of my friends to create some ventures. While this happened, that in one of the event, I met the chairman of the group, and he asked me to come to the office and meet. And then he put in a proposal saying that whatever you're withdrawing there, I'll double your package. You join us because we want to build a India retail and e-commerce business for the diamond jewelry, and we want to build brands. We are already acquiring some brands, and we want to build a branded retail e-commerce and a retail business. So that's with that challenge I joined. That division was at a concept stage when I joined. So similar resistances were faced there by the traditional people in the ecosystem. When a lot of people told me that I coined a term called franchising. I said that we will go this retail business through franchising, and our franchisees would not be jewelers. It will be non-jeweler franchisees. We'll create jewelers because we don't want jewelers mindset to come into this store. So non-jeweler franchisees would be there. And that is the point where I had a resistance from a lot of people saying jewelry in India cannot be sold without a jeweler. You have to just go through jewelers. My perspective was that if you go to a jeweler, he will use your brand only to get walk-ins in his store, then show your brand and sell the imitations and replicas of your brand in terms of design, because design is not an IP in jewelry still today. Anybody can produce any design without a logo and sell it at much cheaper rate. So eventually you will not get the volumes, you will not have consumer connect. So that's when this, so a lot of resistance, they said you cannot do it. I argued against that. In fact, it went to a point when I had to say in a meeting of almost 15 people and all the seniors, including the chairman and director of finance and vice chairman, everybody sitting in that meeting, that see, you guys have been trying for this for last 2 years, nothing has happened. I have 100% conviction that this is going to work. So if you guys want to try, let's try it for 6 to 8 months. If it works, well. If it doesn't work, आप अपने रास्ते में अपने रास्ते. And if you don't want to try anything new, then कल से आप अपने रास्ते में अपने रास्ते. I don't think I have a future here or I deserve a place here if you don't want to try anything new. So that's what then chairman said, that I like your confidence, come and meet me. And then he said, okay, again the similar story started. A small team was given, and then it's a case study. I mean, we built a second largest diamond jewelry company in the country, and we were the fastest growing company. We reached to a network of 127 plus multi-brand store, another 150 single brand stores, e-commerce at marketplaces, our own marketplace e-commerce. So this was a case study.
And in about 5 to 6 years, it went from zero to
2,000 crore at that time,
business,
which would have been probably a $2-3 billion valuation
has to be
by current
at
startup
that time.
standards.
Yes.
And this was a case study. I got so much of accolades, fame, everything in the industry. Was awarded as one of the top 50 CXOs of the country by Retailer magazine, and a lot of this thing. A wonderful time. Yes, unfortunately, that brand does not exist today because of the greed of certain individuals. Kill the hugely tremendous business for many people, for many franchisees, for many employees, for many shareholders. The greed of few individuals who were controlling that killed that business.
And I guess as a leader, as a CXO, this becomes one of the most important thing to look for, because if somebody was to say that I am very good in building something, but at the same point in time, the governance is something which is not strong enough, there is always that risk, and you can see the kind of impact that it can have.
Absolutely. And this was coming out of Tata Steel, which is a epitome of professional culture, I would say, one of the companies, and being with so-called Lala company at that time, and trying to build your own business vertical as a modern age business and a startup has its own challenges. And at that time, probably my knowledge was not that great in terms of how to kind of mitigate and insulate it from all these the governance issues and all those things. My focus was more on building business, building brands, building distribution, reaching out to last mile consumer, creating consumer connects, marketing initiatives. So was focused on that and never probably ignored the governance part of it, and all that thing, including accounting and finance and governance and legal and statutory, was the control of the owners. So they and I kind of ignored that. So but yes, I mean that pain of coming out of it and then going and exposing them for a suspected fraud which was happening in that company in terms of money being siphoned out of the country was a decision which is similar to you deciding to amputate one of your leg because it got extreme cancerous disease or something of that sort.
And I think it is much bigger than that. Uh, just to put the context right, Santoshi was amongst the very few whistleblowers in the well-known PNB scam that India had faced. So he was at the center of that whistleblower thing that happened, and I'm sure that led to multi years of pain for you, because it took the whole system a time to accept what had happened, and there were a number of questions, cases that has come your way, all of them cleared now, and the truth is there before everybody else, right? So while we are at it, let's just get in a bit of detail of you know because see, the thing is, we are talking about a man who has already built a business which is doing 2000 crores ka revenue. 3 to 4 billion dollars by any ways would be the valuation that somebody could be pegging at, and I'm sure there is a significant bit of equity that is there. Putting that lid off is something which meant for you at that point in time that there is a risk to a lot of things. And what made you work this way? The risk was obviously known to you, and what did it result into?
See, tough call, I would say, but yes, I'm happy that I could take that right call at that moment of time. When you are the managing director of the business, the entire India business, and have 15% partnership in the business, which I had built for that group, with a signed document, though the share transfers never happened. It is, I think, intentional. It did not happen, and I was not that knowledgeable at that time. I was happy with my MOU. It said that I'm the 15% partner. And in terms of money, I was making probably more than 2 crore in the package, plus another 2-3 crore a year in the profit shares and incentives. So if you're making 40-50 lakh a month at 2013, which probably could have been more than 1.5-2 crore in terms of value right now. So obviously it's a tough call to take for you, and you coming from but yes, then the lot of interest. Last 6 months were when I was trying to bounce off that things are not right and we need to insulate the company, particularly the retail company, Gitanjali Jewellery Retail Limited, from all these things which probably some of your other group companies are doing. Obviously, it was falling on deaf ears. So he said that do your job, make your money, and go home. Why you bothered what I'm doing? Just focus on what you're supposed to do, which is run the India retail company. Don't get into what I'm doing with finance, what I'm doing with funds. That is my problem. But obviously, I could see that the money does not belong to him. It belongs to the shareholders of the business. It belongs to franchisee partners. It belongs to the 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 lenders from where it has come. So obviously, you are the custodian of that money. That's the Tata culture which I subscribe to. You are the trustee or a custodian of that wealth which you are creating. You are not the owner of that wealth. So I confronted him. He did not listen. Then I had to resign and tell him that I am going to expose, and started writing complaints to all the authorities possible, whether it is SFIO or Economic Offence Wing or ED or CBI or Ministry of Finance, PMO, everywhere. Me and some other friends who joined with me in this cause, we wrote to every other possible agency. A lot of it fell on deaf ears because powerful man, a lot of money. But then obviously the I would say a lie has a life. Truth is immortal. So lie has a life. So obviously that lie lasted for few more years after I left. I left them in 2013. 2013 end, and 2014 is when we started complaining They did attack with a lot of false allegations, cases, and all of which was proved wrong by the agencies and courts. But yet, that was a tough 2 3 year period while I was building my own businesses and consulting parallelly. Was also handling this part. So, but in hindsight, I think it was the right decision. If probably I would not have taken that step, probably they would have done much more bigger scale fraud, and probably it had lasted for another 5 10 years.
And probably you could be part of that
Absolutely.
as well in that case, because on one side, when we say that, okay, let me not take a harsh call today, I might as well be creating a bigger problem for myself as well.
No, if you come to the notice that something wrong is happening, and if you don't raise that, then you are party to
Then
that.
you are a party to it.
Then you are party to that. That's the decision that actually made my decision right. That if for the just for the greed of money which I am making currently, a good handsome package and a good incentives and profit shares, if I keep quiet and don't report what is happening, then I'm becoming a party to this. And I don't want to a party to this. I don't want to earn money in an unethical manner by ignoring something wrong happening. So that's the decision. It made my decision easy. I said I'll resign. I'll start complaining, because within the system, it was very difficult to, prevent this.
So one can also relate it to remaining within the comfort zone, because you were in a comfort zone, but obviously remaining there for a longer period of time could have actually resulted into a much bigger issue than probably a few years problem that you would have faced. Gitanjali was one, but I think you've done much more after that. So you built in a very early stage Tata Tiscon. You built Gitanjali, multiple brands under Gitanjali, both organic and inorganic. And then you've helped 50 plus brands under your consulting arm, FPIL. So one can, I think I can safely say that you are a brand man, somebody who's built multiple brands and supported multiple brands. So you've seen journey for multiple brands coming in from multiple sectors. So I think I would want to pick your mind on the way you look at building brands and scaling one.
So I would slightly put it differently. I think a brand is a mechanism or a tool to build a business. I am a growth man. I would put myself, and I love working with businesses and working out their, crafting out their growth strategies, and then implementing that strategy with their teams to achieve X to 2x, X to 3x, X to 5x, X to 10x. And this is what I've been doing in my professional endeavors also, as well as in my consulting endeavors, and also in a startup venture. So that's what gives me the kick. And yes, being part of Tata Group was an immense learning. Being part of Gitanjali, building from scratch to our second largest business, was a wonderful journey together. A lot of learnings, and all those learnings need to be deployed in the business. But basically, if you see, it's how you look at the business. If I ask anyone that what is a business, so a lot of people will come back and tell that it's making profits, doing revenues, doing top lines, building brands. That is all mechanism of building business. That is not building business. Building business to me is a very simple thing, that what you need to do is to identify a real problem which consumer has, which your target audience has, whom you want to target in that business. A real genuine problem, not your perception of a problem. And then you need to create a very innovative, implementable solution of that problem. Come up with the implementable solution of that problem. And then you need to build a mechanism so that that solution can be implemented and taken forward and delivered to consumer at a cost which is less than the benefit which consumer gets. Sure. The mechanism of creating and delivering that solution to consumer, the perceived cost is less than the perceived value of that solution. That's the business. It's very simple, commonsensical.
So that's the idea. So that's at an ideation stage.
Absolutely,
So
at the ideation
anybody who comes up, what is the problem that you're solving? What is the solution? And is the solution's value higher than the cost that you're going to be charging from them?
Absolutely right, but with one rider. A lot of people do it from their perspective, what they want to do, which is the biggest trap. If you get stuck in your own perspective of consumer's problem and what is the best solution for consumer, That is the biggest trap. You need to think like a customer, put yourself in the shoes of your customer, and then think that how genuine and how real that problem is for the consumer, how consumer is going to accept that solution which you're going to roll out and implement. So that is, you have to act like a business owner, but you have to think like a customer. So these are two things which a lot of people get lost, and they basically come from a perspective that I want to build this.
Got it. So from an ideation perspective, or from in terms of evaluating whether a particular solution would work or not, I think this covers the key strategy that, is the problem that you are solving a customer's genuine problem? Is the solution actually giving a solution to that problem? Is the cost much lower or lower than the value that the customers perceive out of it? Not what I am actually perceiving, the customer perceives out of it. That is one thing that tells you that, okay, this brand or this business makes sense, right? Let's take it to the level 2, which is about scaling it up. So from 0 to 1, I guess you've given me the 3 things to check. But I think from 1 to 10, and probably 10 to 100, what are those growth strategies? And I'm sure there'll be few which have been timeless. From Tata's time to Gitanjali's time to probably KSKT's time today as well, you would see the same strategies being implemented. Probably somebody is calling it by a different name. So are there some strategies, growth strategies, that you've used then, and you are 100% sure that would work exactly the same way as it is being done, assuming that the first 3 questions of yours are sold?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's the starting point. And as I mean, I learned in Tata Group from Ratan Tata that ideation is just the start point. It is just a dream. The execution makes it a success. So I put it this way, that ideation is less than 1%. More than 99% is the successful execution of that. When it comes to strategies for execution, I would say that one size fits all does not exist. It is all contextual, and it is like it's actually building a business or building a brand is akin to raising a child. So biologically producing a child is 1% of it, but then raising a child to become a good citizen is a long run process, and there are different strategies required at different stages of the life of the children, and for different the mental makeup of that children. So that is how it needs to be: 0 to 1 year, 1 to 5 year, 5 to 20 year, 20 year onward. All that is one size does not fit all. And with the children of different physical and mental strengths and aptitudes, these strategies are different. So same thing is in the business. Yes, there are standard theories in terms of you need to have a product market fit, you need to have early pilot successful, then you need to create the processes and systems which are scalable, which are replicable, which can be scaled to higher volumes, which can be replicated into multiple either geographies or into product segments or into consumer segments, easy replication and all those theories do exist. But what exactly to do in this theory is a process of diagnosis and then coming up with the right plan for execution. Even simplest things like communication, the marketing communication or branding communication, what exactly is going to work with your target audience? So it's a combination of art and science. I would not say it's a pure mathematics or science where the 2 plus 2 means 4. It's not a pure form of art also, because you use a lot of data, lot of analysis to come to a conclusion. A lot of gut feel is used, a lot of understanding of your psychology, human psychology or consumer psychology is used, that what is going to work. But one thing is for sure, that at different scale of businesses, you need to have different strategies. As I think the famous movie Mangalyaan also, this was there, that to move into next orbit, you need to have different kind of energies. And a lot of businesses get stuck because they continue doing the business and treating the business the same when they were 2-year-old or 3-year-old. And at maybe if it is a retail business, maybe 1 store or 2 store, now they are 5 store, but they are still stuck up in the same process. Or they want to scale up to larger target audience, but still they they don't change. So what is good for a 3-year-old child is not necessarily good for a teenager. You can't control a teenager like you control a 3-year-old child. So that is the learning which has to come in, and that is something which comes with the understanding insights of the theories and data. It also comes with your understanding of people's behavior. It also comes with your experience. So that also is what works, what does not work. So if you ask me the formula, there is no said formula for this. But yes, there is a process to it. There is process to all this madness. And if you follow that process, it's a game of probability. The chances are that you are going to be successful more likely. There's nothing in this world which is 100% perfect, and there's nothing in this world which is 0% perfect. So you are in between that, and whether your strategy has a higher probability of success, whether it is branding, marketing, communication, technology systems, business process, inventory management, whatever minor things, merchandising, whatever you take, is actually, if you are succeeding more often than not, and your success percentage say 60, 70, 80%, you're building a great business. If your success percent is only 20%, then you're not building a great business.
Then you are probably running a probability based.
Absolutely. Then you're into a hit and trial method. So you will keep on compounding the losses. You will keep on probably degrowing or not growing with the industry. So ideally, a successful business need to go at least double the rate of what industry growth rate is. That's when you will be the fastest running deer.
But one thing that is coming out of this discussion, Santoshi, is something that we can actually relate to. At Zotter, when we are talking to businesses, I guess this mindset of the entrepreneur, which is that, I've been doing uh, this work, I've been building this business for so many years, and this is how it works. There are a number of 100 to 500 crore businesses that we are working with, and during those 100 to 500 crore journey, the entrepreneur himself has been the one man who's actually running it all. So this mindset of saying that, okay, see, I have taken it here, there is somebody else who can actually put it to the different orbit, is the acceptance that my customer need to have.
Yes. So that one is somebody else, and that somebody else, the value is somebody else brings in a different perspective.
So this is where the mindset of a expert comes in, and he says that, see, for that business, I actually, these are some of the strategies that work. Probably it cannot be the same for you, but can be the starting point of that discussion. What can work for me?
So had the strategy been so simple, then anybody reading Michael Porter or Philip Kotler would have been a strategist. It's not. They give you a process and a guideline. But you have, it's like a diagnostic. You do a diagnostic, you understand what is the problem with the body, and then you decide on your medication and nutrition based on that diagnostic. So that is, in fact, there is an interesting venture which probably we'll take up, where we are getting genome sequencing done and linking your nutrition plan to the science of genome sequencing and physical well-being plan and disease prevention plan. So that's similar process.
I got that test done 2 days back only.
So the process is that you actually need to understand the challenges at that particular of time, which is with multiple context. What is the competition at that time? That is one point. How the consumer thinking has evolved. What are the options available to the consumer? How are the cost economics working? Communication mediums, what are there? As you said, now social media is there. So probably what was working for brands 10 years back when they used to release TV ads and newspaper ads will no longer work for them if they don't change.
But isn't it that the core of it remains more or less the same? So take an example that while Maggie as a brand was being built, there was one message that was kind of embedded into our mindset, which is less about taste, more about the 2 minutes thing, right? And I think the same thing would be done in today's case as well. Somebody building Mama's Earth, saying that, I have this story, and you look at me as a part of that story. If you are relatable to that story, probably you'll end up buying me, right? So that connection becomes the most important. This is what I have been able to understand when I deal with the D2C experts at Zotter. And one thing that they always say is that the story is what matters, right? And then it is about how do you execute it. How do you make sure that the story is read or heard by your target customer in real time. Obviously, that would change. It was a TV at some point in time. It was a Facebook and an Orkut at some point in time. Then a Snapchat comes into play. So, which effectively means that you are saying that it is very important for a expert to get into the shoes of a customer, see what works for him, and accordingly run a probability based test. What works, scale it up.
Absolutely. Take an example, interesting example of Maggie, which you took. Had it been a typical product manager deciding a campaign for him, Maggie, would be either on the best quality of wheat being used, or highest nutrient content, or taste, or the spices which are there with the Maggie. But no, there was a marketeer, a brilliant marketeer who chose 2 minutes and who could come up with the thought of 2 minutes instant food. While this is not in that whatever is the standard product attributes. So what your product attribute, definitely it's a hygiene, you need to have a good product, but your customer may not necessarily connect to your product attributes. It connects to a value which they see, and that is the value. They said 2 minutes,
And I think you
your
can compare.
meal is ready in
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Right. And I think this is where you can compare a Maggie's ad with a Patanjali noodles ad.
Absolutely.
And you can see that difference.
You see
You
the
can
difference.
clearly see the difference.
Absolutely see the
That,
difference.
am I connected to Patanjali's noodles ad? Probably not, unless I am somebody,
See, Patanjali would always, I mean, nothing against a brand, but would always be a substitute for people when they just want a change of taste, or they don't want Maggie, or they want a cheaper product, whatever it is. But the category is built and ruled by them because they connected to that thought, which is actually nowhere in that product. 2 minutes is the time of cooking, and that too not exactly. It depends on many other things: temperature, your this thing, the volume of this, and that place in hills it takes much longer to cook. But that is what has connected to customer. So that is exactly what is your unique differentiation. What is the purple cow which you create, and that differentiation not necessarily has to come from your product only. It is a value which you are delivering to consumers. So that's a brilliant example. I mean, you took it absolutely right.
But
And
I would
that's
also want to link it with YY.
yeah,
So there is another big business around the same segment that
Yeah.
was built. And we have not seen ads of YY. How would you look at that?
See, this is a standard business phenomena. Then, I mean, in every field, if there is Amitabh Bachchan, there will be 20 people doing the mimicry of Amitabh Bachchan also and making their living out of it. So, I mean, nothing against those mimicry artists, but this is how it is. So, if there is a successful brand and a category leader, there would be a lot of people who would be a me too imitating them with slight differentiation in the either price positioning or slightly separate distribution agents strategy. Like why is ruled in maybe eastern state, northeastern states with slightly different taste, which is more suitable for the northeastern local palate. So there would be a lot of brands who would be riding on that. So that is also a right business strategy. If you think that is the long term objective of the business, and you're happy with being number 3, number 4, number 5 in that category, that's also a right business strategy. There's nothing called wrong in business, unless you are losing value and diminishing the shareholders value and
Right. So
financial
ultimately तो
value.
आप business बना रहे हो, अब business profitable होना चाहिए और
Absolutely.
customer से connect होना चाहिए.
As I said about my venture, that we were the second largest company, and I'm happy to build the second largest company in the country in the diamond jewelry category, because I knew that I didn't have the wherewithal to build the largest company. In fact, interesting thing, I was being evaluated to take a CEO role in one of the large organizations. I would not name it here, in the jewelry category, and they're big name, they're big houses, big business houses brand. And they asked me to create a business plan in 6 years' time with whatever investment required, make them number one. I did study, took 10-15 days, come over the plan and said, this is what you can achieve. You can achieve 30,000 crore in 6 years with investment of approximately 1,900 crore, but you will still be the second. you will still be the second. Tanishq is going to be number one because that will be around 37, 38,000 crore at that time. It was in 2013, so 2020 projection was there. And coincidentally, Tanishq was close to that. But that brand was nowhere close to that. So decided not to join, decided to continue my entrepreneurial and consulting endeavor. But there are certain realities. If a category is already claimed by someone, replacing that brand is actually a hugely costly affair. And that too in a same positioning which they are carrying. So either you come up with some innovative positioning which consumer connects more than what they're connecting to a existing leader in that category, or you be happy with being a third, fourth, fifth, 10th brand in that category. That is also a right business strategy.
So this is what an Apple would have done with the Nokias or Samsungs of the world, or a BlackBerry would have done with the other brand that in the peak of its journey. Interesting. So we are talking about. So we have touched a bit about the brand story that you've done. You've worked with multiple such businesses, and then you're from steel to retail and jewelry, and now we are talking about food tech. And in last podcast, I was talking to Rahul, who's a very good friend of mine, and at one point in time today, he's building 6 different businesses. All of those 6 businesses coming in from different sectors, and we had a detailed discussion about it. As in, what's the mindset that you have running a cars business and a food business? Completely different set of businesses. So I can clearly see that as an expert, somebody who has a decent bit of experience, you would end up saying that it doesn't make a difference. Actually, if you know your customer, you'll be able to run it. But still, what made you move from the retail and jewelry? I'm sure you are still working as a consultant for many, but building a business in a food tech is something which is unique, right? So, and that too building on your own, right? So what is it that actually took you to take that move from that business to this business?
So two aspects to it. One, yes, it's an interesting thing, and I think you earlier touched that probably lucky enough to get the right college and right job as a millennial, and then at the second inning of my life when I was 46, 47, deciding to enter into a startup world with a startup, and that too in a domain which I had never exposure to, the food domain, the healthy food domain, and the farming and agriculture, agri tech or agri mart as you say it. Getting into that, interesting. It started as a passion at the COVID time, sitting idle first time in my life for 3-4 months. Decided to get into farming. Took up some 40 odd acres of farms on lease and started farming, and I started liking that life. Then this came to a conclusion that this can be a passion. This cannot be a business. And passions without, unless you have your own oxygen mask, the business are commercially successful. It does not succeed for a long time. So then decided to pivot it to a market-focused company for the healthy food. What we have been doing in KSKT AgroMart and kaseliving.com is we are building the one-stop destination for all the healthy food need of consumers of India. And by healthy food, I mean food which is free from harmful chemical. So anything which is not ordinary, better than ordinary is what we offer to consumer. So that is an interesting exercise. But yes, you're right that that the process remains same. Though the process remains same, but the formulas change. The process of identifying a business and then getting into business change, but the dynamics are changed because competitive pressures are different, different kind of domain knowledge is required, different kind of product knowledge is required. I would correlate it to a chef. I mean, as a chef, you are known to be a good chef, maybe at max for a cuisine, not for a dish. So, I mean, though generally good chefs are good in different cuisines also. So, as a business builder and as a growth guy, I am okay to work out a model, and I feel excited to work out a business growth model and business model right from scratch to a large business across any category. So that basic kick and basic drive and basic understanding is there. But yes, every recipe needs understanding of different ingredients. So if you're cooking Italian, you need to know Italian ingredients, the spices. If you're cooking a Mughlai, then you need to know that. So similarly, the domain knowledge is also important. But you get too bogged down only by the domain knowledge and don't understand what is the right process to do it, then there is a problem. So typically, if you will see that these are the guys who would be, I'm nowhere comparing to great visionaries like Elon Musk and all, but these are not segment specific. They will build something new. So maybe at a very micro level. People like me and the gentleman you mentioned are similar to that mental mindset that we love creating something and building some business. It is irrespective of the strategy and the knowledge of being a. If you enjoy you cooking, you will enjoy cooking a Mughlai dish also, and you will enjoy cooking a.
No, actually, the analogy of cooking makes a lot more sense, because if you get into detail, cooking is also not just an art. It is a majority of science and a bit of art to it, because one need to understand what oil does at what stage of the cooking, and every cuisine will be dependent upon that only, right? So that's a very interesting analogy.
That's one of my hobbies. It's one of the de-stressing exercise which I do, and whenever I have opportunity, once or twice a week, I cook. I cook something for myself, my family, my friends.
Nice.
Love doing that.
Nice. And you have another hobby of writing.
That's something developed in early childhood. I had forgotten that in my early professional life, but then again caught up with that. So, love writing गज़ल्स in Urdu and Hindi. मैं कुछ मुख्तलिफ मिजाज रखता हूँ. One of my favorite and early stage. मैं कुछ मुख्तलिफ मिजाज रखता हूँ. I keep a little different attitude in life. मैं कुछ मुख्तलिफ मिजाज रखता हूँ. कल के सपनों को आँखों में आज रखता हूँ. कल के सपनों को आँखों में आज रखता हूँ. मुझे विरासत में मिली है सिर्फ अना, सेल्फ एस्टीम. मुझे विरासत में मिली है सिर्फ अना, इसलिए सर पर गुरूर ताज रखता हूँ.
Very nice, very nice. So you're saying that whatever is being built is built by me because of certain thing that has happened, and hence I'm fine to be proud of it.
That's what I'm proud of. Not the legacy which I inherited, or the things which I created. So see, what you talk and what you do shapes up from your life experiences. Probably, if I would have been born in a family with maybe thousands crores of wealth, I would have thought differently. I would have did differently. I would have approached the life differently. So, born in a lower middle class family, difficult to make ends meet. We used to take decisions whether if this person is going for a tuition, this person cannot go. If brother is going, sister cannot go. If sister is going, brother cannot go. So that is the typical lower middle class family of a railway employee. This is where four of us were brought, and so you learn to manage with limited resources. That's also a great.
A lot of us can actually relate to it. Yeah.
Most of us have come that way, so we would relate to that. And then the biggest thing which you learn there is not cribbing about what's not there. You learn to manage with limited resources and make best out of that. That's also the business management. Business management is all about achieving more with the limited resources. If there is unlimited money, anybody can build a brand and anybody can do marketing, but that doesn't make a brand. Otherwise, all the startups in the world would be owned by the sons and daughters of the top 10, top 20 rich people in the world. And in India, probably all will be owned by the sons and daughters of Ambanis and Adanijis and Mahindrajis. But it's not. There are people coming from small towns building large businesses. There are a lot of cases because it's not money. What money is a raw material for business.
Yeah, I guess with the advent of technology, the market is getting democratized. So
Absolutely.
obviously, the new minds would have an opportunity. Obviously, somebody having the money is always helpful. They would always have.
Money is also democratized with VC firms, with angel investors. If I come across a wonderful idea and a passionate person to implement that idea, I don't think me and you will think twice to give him 10-20 lakhs at an early stage, which he needs in the exchange of a small percentage of equity and support for him.
And
he keeps proving and he keeps raising money. So we are very early stage, then the next stage, then the next stage, and then there are large VC firms sitting to fund the businesses. So that democratization has happened across segments. It's happened in finance and accounts. It happens in technology. It has happened in logistics. Now a small delivery company is created in a small town can actually grow and become one of the.
And there are multiple such examples now. Santoshji, while we are talking about agromart, food tech, rather setting up the food supply chain, fixing up the food supply chain, I see that you talk a lot about the quality of food that is being served to Indians, and there is a fact that says that India is amongst the highest pesticide consumer, even more than China and US, and this is ultimately resulting into not so good food being served, right? Um and you're also working on the same thought process while
Right.
you're building KSKT and Kazi Living both, wherein you're talking about clean food for that matter, maybe in the form of pesticide free or an organic, but something which is, I see that is very close to your heart. So how do you see that as a problem for the India, and how do you look at it from the perspective of KSKT and Kazi Living when you are building it?
So KSKT, Kisan Se Kitchen Tak, actually the idea happened during the time of the pandemic. And it happened from my past experiences during my Tata Steel days while building Tata Tiscon's distribution network and Tata Viron later on. I used to do a lot of rural market visits. And I observed that our farmers are doing two separate patches of farming. One for the commercial purpose, which they sell in the mandis, where they use all kind of chemicals, starting from fertilizers to pesticides to weedicides to growth enhancers, everything, and a small separate patch which they use for to grow for their own families and friends, because they also know that the food which they are growing using so much of chemical is not good for health.
So they grow clean for food
Absolutely,
for
absolutely, because they
themselves,
know. But
but
unfortunately,
chemicals for
we
us.
can't blame them because
Yeah.
the commercial compulsions are there.
Yes.
Because the mandi does not value the intrinsic quality of the food. What it values is how it looks and what is the quantity you've got there,
Oh, yes.
and you get price for that. And there is an experience which we also came across that. So that was the thought. And what I had done was I had developed an ecosystem of few products like the mustard for mustard oil and some rice and some pulses and some things coming to my family from that patch of farmers which they were doing for themselves as a personal connect with those farmers. But then during the pandemic, when it happened that the health and immunity is the biggest asset or wealth which you can have as human, I thought that why can't we create this ecosystem for larger set of consumers? And that's when this ideation happened. Kisan Se Kitchen Tak, a healthy food company is what we'll create. We started by farming ourselves and growing chemical-free organic food, some 30 odd items, and serving it to consumers. During the process, we realized few things. One, this can be a passion business to have 3, 4, 5, 10 farms of yours, grow and try to reach to consumer and sell it effectively. Uh, but it cannot be a scalable business. Two, there are enough farmers who are actually wanting to do natural farming or organic farming, and they are doing also. But during the course of time, they get demotivated because when they don't get right price for their produce, they switch back to chemical farming. So we realize that the real problem to solve for consumer is creating a market linkage for these growers and processors who are creating healthy food for us, and also creating a one-stop destination for consumers who are looking for this product. So these are two sides of the same coin which we are trying to solve in this KSKT Grow Mart and Khaza Living. On one side, we are creating a one-stop destination with the tagline of "Eat Better, Live Healthy," where consumers can find better food for them, which will help them protect their health and immunity and live healthy. On the other side, we are creating a market linkage and supply chain linkage for the growers and processors to take their produce to last mile consumer, because unfortunately the logistical challenges is where the food is being grown, the consumer is not there. The consumer who can pay for this is not there. Where the consumer is there, farms are not there. So all the metro towns, bigger towns have larger set of consumer. Our demographic mix is that way, who are able to pay. So the market side of the company is focused on metro towns, starting with Delhi NCR. The supply chain side is fixed with is with the growing areas like Sambals and Itawas and the Bundelkhunds and the Sopors and Sopians and Pulwamas of the world, and creating a network of growers and processors from there and bringing their produce to towns like Delhi, Bangalore, Bombay, and making it reach to consumer. So that's the healthy food company with the objective of building a healthy India, as we call it in our vision statement. Building healthy India by creating happy kitchens and happy kisans. Happy kitchens and happy kitchens. So happy kitchens which we serve chemical-free healthy food to the family members, and happy kisans who happily grows or makes this food for us because he gets the right supply chain linkage and right market linkage to take their produce to a consumer who is willing to pay right price for that produce.
I would want to understand, some of the, the words that are used in this industry. So people say that there is food, there's a normal food that we are getting, normal vegetables that we are getting. Then there is a GM version of it. Then there is an hybrid version. Then there is an organic version, and then there is something called pesticide free. Right. And everything comes at a different price point. And then there is something called organically grown versus a certified organic food. What is the difference in all of them? And as a consumer, what is it that one should be looking at? Is it that the most expensive is the best, or is it a tag which confirms that it is
very genuine question. I think as a consumer it is very difficult to find that what is a better food for consumer. So, and it's a journey from a spectrum of 0 to 10. If I say that the most ordinarily bought and sold item is at 0, the anything which is better than that is a better food. It could be organic certified, it could be organically grown, it could be naturally grown, it could be hydroponically grown, it could be regenerative farming. There are multiple things, and as you said, the GM seeds. So GM is not necessarily good or bad. GM is basically modified seeds which gives you higher productivity and higher production. But yes, in general, you lose the nutrient value to a larger extent, some most of the time. So a lot of these GM modified varieties do give you higher productivity, but they don't have that kind of nutrition which a native food had, because you have end of the day played with the genomics of the plant.
So you are not eating a bad food, but it is probably not as good as a.
So there is, as I would again say, that there is nothing called 100% perfect in this world, as there is nothing called zero. So at the time of 60s, 70s, when the great visionary Lal Bahadur Shastri was there and we faced acute shortage of food items, probably that time it was a right strategy to open the doors for multinational companies, get chemical fertilizers, get modified seeds, varieties, and all those things, the so-called green revolution, because that was the need of the hour. But what it did was, because it was absolutely unregulated, it actually spoiled the entire ecosystem of food, and farmers got into that chemical trap. And it's a simple method. It's like if you mosquito repellent also, if you put one mosquito repellent in your house, after a few days mosquitoes become resistant to that, then you have to put high power or two of them in your room to get the same effect. Similarly, with when you start putting pesticides on a crop, the pest also will develop resistance to that, and you have to put more and more of that in every cycle. Same with chemical fertilizers. As you keep on putting chemical fertilizers, the natural biodiversity of the soil reduces, the earthworm goes further down or gets killed. So you next cycle you have to use more of these. It's a trap. So there has to be a balanced approach towards food security and also towards the quality of the food. You're absolutely right in terms of quality of food. We are one of the poorest because there are substances being used in processing, food processing also, as additives, as preservatives, as artificial flavors, as artificial colors, and during the farming, which are banned in developed countries. But unfortunately, at that time, the reality was that we were not able to grow enough to feed our population. So that's the time it was opened up. So this has to be a balanced approach. I personally believe that natural farming can give you as high or probably higher productivity if it is sustained for longer period of time, but it needs to be supported by the policies where your chemical fertilizers are subsidized, but organic farming is not subsidized. So obviously you're creating an imbalance. But there are political compulsions, so it's a very difficult to take. I mean, and also there is social compulsions. I mean, food security is one of them, farmers' welfare is another. So it's a difficult call, but yes, businesses like us are taking the initiative. I'm happy that the government of India is now recognizing that. After we created our venture, the next budget, we had a separate section on natural farming, which was kind of validation of what we were doing. So 2020 we started. 2021 and 22 budget talked about natural farming promotion across Gangetic belts and all those things, and now it's a big thing. I mean, government is putting up natural certification process also in place. Our objective, I would simplify, not getting into the technicalities of farming or processing or getting into various varieties of food, is that, I mean, whatever diseases we are having currently in the society, and we are one of the country where these diseases instances are at the highest rate, whether it is cancer, we are the diabetic capital of the world. The cardiovascular heart issues are there at a very young stage with people, cholesterol issues and all those things. Gastro, almost every second person has a gastro issue. Most of this is around three things: what we breathe, what we eat, and what we think. So what we breathe is an environmental pollution problem with large bodies in the world are working, including governments. We can do our small bit there also as being very conscious user of anything which pollutes the environment. What we eat is what ventures like us is trying to handle. What we think is then spirituality and a lot of other things. But these are things. What input goes in the mind, as there is a famous sloka in Gita, which is the most misunderstood sloka also. Karmande vadika raste mafales kadachana. The typical explanation of that is, आप कर्म करो फल की चिंता मत करो, which is a wrong explanation. I don't subscribe to that explanation. My explanation to that is, what it says, Gita intent to say is, if your karmas are right, then you don't need to bother for outcome. The outcome will automatically come. It will flow. Because against the human nature, you cannot do anything if you don't have a motivation of getting something. So it could be anything, not necessarily materialistic. So what it says is basically, if your input is right, the output will be right. Rather than worrying for output, you work for input. So that's what in the food also. If the input to the food growing and food processing are right, the output will be right. If we are giving the wrong inputs, then obviously the right output will be right. Same with our human body. If we are giving wrong inputs to the human body, I come across, and you would have also seen that a lot of people who have been absolute teetotalers, non-smokers, vegetarians, doing a lot of yoga and exercises, get cancers and get heart issues. Why? Because what they're eating every day in terms of their salads and their vegetables and their dal and their rice is all full of harmful pesticides which is entering their body. So that needs to be controlled. So with that larger objective, we are a very small initial player in this, trying to build an ecosystem of healthy food in the country. Happy that consumers are patronizing us and they're supporting us. A lot of investment firms have supported us with their investment. We have been able to build one of the fastest growing company in this domain, and recognized as one of the good startups. So that is one. It is obviously the primary driver is the passion and creating the social impact. But again, all this is possible in a sustainable manner if you have a viable business. So yes, the business, the profitability, the valuation are the drivers, but that is not the only driver for which we are working with.
Rather, they end up becoming an enabler.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is enabler for achieving what we want to achieve, and what we want to achieve is we want to build a largest one-stop destination for the healthy food need of consumers. And when I say healthy food need, I don't claim that whatever we offer is the healthiest version. What we claim is it is better than what is ordinary available in the most frequently bought and sold item. So we don't keep most ordinary item. We find alternative. For example, if we don't find a grower of organic jackfruit, we will not offer jackfruit to our customers. So we only offer product where we can find a better alternative of what is available in the market.
So in your business, you are creating a very strong moat wherein the consumer says that, if I'm not able to understand what is good for me, anything which I'm buying from Kazi Living is good for me.
Absolutely. Like we had a debate, and we still keep on having debates. that whether we should stick to only organic certified and only naturally grown produce, or we should also start giving pesticide residue free to the consumers. So if the ordinary tomato is 60 rupees and the organic tomato is 120 rupees, there is a large segment of consumer which is willing to pay 70, 75 and buy pesticide residue free. So why not introduce that also as a category and say that at least you use pesticide residue free, then there is 90-95% of the problem is on the surface because the pesticide is sprayed. So if we can clean that, clear that of all the surface pesticides, that food is 90% better than the ordinary. It may not be as good as 100% organically grown food, but it is 90% better than the ordinary. So that is also a segment, and there is hardly 10% extra price customer has to pay. So that is the segment which we should be doing, and we are going to introduce that segment.
So, are you seeing this as a revolution or change in mindset in some of these bigger cities only, or you're seeing this as a national, concern for the consumer, wherein they started talking about it even in tier 2 and tier 3 city?
No, it is. It is. You see, if we look at the startup ecosystem and business ecosystem, that is definitely concentrated in bigger cities. But as a revolution, as you the word used, so it is very small efforts towards that revolution of creating a healthy food across the world. But that actually did exist in the villages. Villages, if you see, since I mentioned that farmers used to do a separate farming for themselves, which included not only themselves, also their neighbors and their families and their friends. So this healthy food ecosystem was there in the villages. There also people used to make food products without any preservative. The dadis and nanis used to make a lot of food products, including snacking items, where there was hardly anything added. Today, whatever at a commercial scale we get in those wonderful looking attractive plastic packets is all full of preservatives and chemical added and artificial flavor added. In villages we never had that. They used to make their own native snacks and foods. So probably what you got at a namak pare or a samosa shop in a small village was healthier than what we get here. I mean, not to demean any, not to good big brands packaged this thing, better snack than that. So that is the movement which we want to create. So we have a B2C vertical, which is kazeliving.com, which is a one-stop destination for healthy food with the tagline of Eat Better, Live Healthy. We have a D2C brand called Kisan Se Kitchen Tak, where our tagline is Tradition of Taste, Purity and Health. So we are bringing back the traditional versions of food, which is tastier, which are purer, which are healthier for the consumer. And the B2B vertical, where because we are working with farmers, we need to give them volume also, and we also need to do volume. So we source in bulk and supply to all the large players, whether it is quick commerce guys or e-commerce guys or physical retail guys, now opening up food processing guys also as a B2B vertical.
So, as we move towards the end of this discussion, let's talk a bit about the mindset, the CXO or an entrepreneur mindset for that matter. So, given that you are working with a number of businesses already in the form of a mentor, what is it that some of the qualities that you would want to check before you say that I'm willing to work with you? Any person that is reaching out, or for that matter, any person that you have worked with over last 3 decades or so. What are those some of the quality that you say this is the must, ये नहीं होएगा तो चलेगा नहीं?
I would say, which I have experienced, that it is one, humility, open mindedness. For me, a big no for engagement with any consulting projects or any startup as a investor, advisor, mentor, whatever role I have there is if that owner, founder, or a owner of the business says that I know everything and I know this is what is required and I want you to do this. That's a no for me. I don't associate with that business, whatever they are willing to pay me in the form of money or give me in the form of equity. If that comes with a mindset that I know everything, I know what is to be done, so I just need more hands to do it, and that's why you make that happen. That's a no for me, and I've left so many contracts even before taking that and after taking when I encountered this thought process with some of the owners in the consulting endeavor, because money is always secondary unless you create a contribution and build something. So the biggest no is as a CXO, and CXO has to be an entrepreneurial mindset. If CXO is not entrepreneurial mindset, the organization is not in the safe hands. CXO cannot be an employee mindset. CXO cannot come with a bias that I know everything. So your best of the suggestions may come from the junior most guys.
Right.
So that openness, the first quality which a CXO or entrepreneur has to have, that humility and openness, and know his pie chart, that there is a very small I know, and also a very small I don't know. The biggest is I don't know that I don't know. That's a standard.
No, I can actually relate to this because most of the businesses, if at all an entrepreneur is reaching out to an expert and asking for support, and he says, I know, then he probably do not need an expert. He just needs a execution team. So as soon as an expert comes into play, you need to give him that leeway to be able to innovate and try things in his way.
I would agree with just minor addition, appending of what you say. Actually, he needs that person is the most which he needs. If that mindset is there that I know everything, that person actually needs an expert.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it is very difficult for expert to function with him.
Because
Function with him.
The
So
customer doesn't
experts
need
shy
it, he
away
doesn't
from
need
that.
it then, right?
Experts shy away from functioning with that guy. Actually, the biggest need is there, because if the person has an open mindset, the knowledge can actually be acquired by consulting a lot of people, friends and families, even reading. Yes, expertise is required, the implementation experience is required. That's where expert pitch in. But the person who has this mindset that I know everything actually is the person who needs it most. But yes, for us,
But
it
linking to
doesn't
your
make.
first strategy, which is about understand your customer. If he doesn't need it, let it be.
Let it be. Let it be. I mean, you will have to leave it,
उसको
because
जाने दो
you
दूसरा.
have limited
हाँ.
time bandwidth, limited resource bandwidth, so
Right.
you cannot change the entire world.
Exactly.
So
Mindset नहीं change.
you obviously, if you go on boiling the ocean, you'll get hardly any difference which you will create. So you need to identify your opportunities where the owners are receptive, the founder is receptive, they are willing to listen. They are not coming back with the mindset that what I know is the best. So that is the mindset which is definitely required. And when actually hiring a person as senior management people, as CXOs or functional heads or business head, this is the first quality which I check, and I think you should check it. If somebody comes with the attitude that I know everything, that guy is actually not a right fit for that role, because nobody in this world knows everything.
हो ही नहीं सकता.
Nobody in this
ऐसा
world
हो ही नहीं
knows.
सकता तो तुमको कैसे पता?
So that's
So linking it with the culture. So one is that when you are hiring a senior person, for that matter, this is something which is required for everybody. Senior persons have the tendency to start saying that I know it because I have had an experience. But if I were to link it with culture, how have you built the cultures in the businesses that you have worked with? Or what is that one advice that you're giving to those mentees of yours while they are building organization with the culture, specifically when we are talking about the age and era wherein the new workforce is entering? And a lot of people have that question that is it a good or a bad workforce? And over a period of time they'll prove us wrong for sure.
whatever worked 30 years back, when I mean, though I was lucky to have bosses who were absolutely open-minded, willing to listen to anything and consider all good suggestions. But that was a time predominantly when the bosses were always right. There used to be a poster.
Yeah.
There are only two rules: boss is always right, and second is, if there is a confusion, refer to rule number one. So that is how it was. So the times have changed with the Gen Zs now entering into thing, and that is a fact that the current next generation is always more informed and more intelligent. You can question their work ethics, you can question their way they take life about, and the balance of profession and life, otherwise the job and life balance. Those are the things which may not match with what we had in our younger days, but they are definitely more intelligent than us. There is there is a lot of learnings, knowledge, openness, thought process which they bring in. So first thing of building a culture is breaking all these communication barriers. So that is whenever I engage with, I engage not only with owners. Owners is something which take a decision. So obviously the initial meetings happen with them, but I start with meeting every functional manager of theirs and hearing out their perspective. And sometimes, trust me, I have to tell the owners that can you please leave the meeting room, because these guys don't come openly when the owner is sitting, who is supposedly paying their salary. Those salary is being paid by the customers, not by the owners. They are just the mechanism of charging it to customer and paying to employees. So I sometimes actually ask, because these guys start putting words in their mouth. नहीं नहीं ये ऐसा होता है ना, ऐसा करते हो ना तुम. So better is to sometimes ask these guys to leave. So, and that's what I said. I have actually left some assignments which were well-paying assignments after 2 months, after 3 months, because I saw a roadblock there. It does not progress to what I want to do. So I don't want to linger on, continue and making that few lakh rupees every month as my fees and not contributing anything significant. There's a lot of opportunities in this world where you can make a meaningful contribution. So better is to focus on those. So this is first part of the culture. Create that, break all the communication barrier and create openness. Second thing I do is, and I inculcate that is starting from owner, is that start questioning everything. Don't take anything as it is. There could be a better way of doing it. It's not that everything needs to be changed. You need to find your priorities, that what is the high impact area and what needs to change currently. But this mindset of questioning everything, that there can be a better way. If there are 30 things which can be improved, you don't take all 30 together, because there is a change, is a process. The water needs to flow. So there is obviously, if it overflows, there is flood. So you cannot bring the flood of changes. But you basically have the mindset of questioning everything. So question whatever is there. Question data, question process, question policies. Everything can be questioned. Nothing is beyond questioning in this world. So that is the two things which is building that culture of growth. And these are the two areas where actually a lot of people get stuck up. A lot of people get stuck up, and trust me, I had to sometimes blatantly tell these owners that you are the bottleneck of the growth. You don't think that you don't have a good team or good employees around. You are the bottleneck. Your thought process, your behavioral, your communication style is the bottleneck of growth. So first is what you have to change.
So you are carrying a legacy of freedom fighters. You are very strong on your ethics, and you also carry another legacy of being a poet, having good understanding of both Urdu language and Hindi language, and ability to pass on your message in a very subtle way. Same way, you are building a lot of legacies about entrepreneurship, creating new businesses, and an impact on food for that matter. What is it that you are thinking about in terms of the legacy that you want to pass on to the next generation?
So I'll start with a share on this, that होते हैं मुकम्मल इस जहां में, सपने उन्हीं के अक्सर. होते हैं मुकम्मल मतलब कंप्लीट इस जहां में, सपने उन्हीं के अक्सर. निगाहें हों आसमां पर चले पाँव जमी पर रखकर. So that's one of my share which I thought will suit this. And yes, you're right, coming from the background of a freedom fighter grandfather and a lower middle class family, what I actually picked up in my early stage is a value system and how to look at things, which is actually helping till today to me, that don't accept anything as it is. There is, anything can be questioned, and there could be a better answers to this. So that is one which we deploy in this. So that is the best legacy which you can leave for your next generation, which I also feel is not to pass certain ordinance or rules to them, rather than pass a process of critical thinking and critical evaluation. So as one of my own personal vision of building a cult called entrepreneur, I keep on motivating even my team employees, where you sometimes you say आप employee को भी entrepreneur बनाने चल देते हो. A lot of people tell me, but that's the kick which I get.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, that's the kick I get. And I have actually a lot of people who are working as employees with me have turned into entrepreneurs, and I feel very happy about that. So entrepreneurship is actually all about having that mindset of openness. And while when we call that employee mindset, is just following a beaten path. So that is the critical difference which I want to leave aside. I don't want to leave any rules that you should do your marketing this way or you should do your brand building this way, because everything is contextual. So if that mentee has that ability to critically think and analyze things, he will be more often than not, he or she will be able to come up with right answers rather than just giving them a set rules that your communication style should be this, your branding style should be this, your copywriting should be this, your brand logo like should be this, your analysis should be like this. That's not the what you can pass as legacy though. That is something what you can pass is this culture of entrepreneurship, and that's I've taken as a personal vision to build a cult called entrepreneurship in the country. I do it my very small impact, but in my own small way. So that is one legacy which I want to pass. And yes, there are certain problems which needs certain bold decisions, like the freedom fighters did at early stage, where they took that bold step of revolting against the all powerful mighty Britishers who were the mightiest army and that time. But they had that courage that no, India needs freedom and I will start that revolt from myself. So that is some of the difficult question. Need a small effort. You need to be counted, not someone looking at the fire silently. Even if a drop of water you're dropping, you are counted in that who are trying to quench that fire. So that is what any of the big problems of the country, whether it is pollution, whether it is global warming, whether it is healthy food, whether it is safety, security, whether it is a lot of new problems with AI coming in, the problem statements are also changing. So everything is changing, but that courage to question the existing practice and try and build something new is that entrepreneurship which I call. And I think if we are able to build that, like no experience in farming. In our families, nobody had even a bigha of farms. So the farms, only farms I had seen is when I visited rural area, I used to go to the farms and see that as a picnic. So getting into a venture which is all related to healthy food, growing, farming and all was also a bold decision. Coming back from a steel industry, getting into a diamond jewelry. So
So
that
आपकी कुछ lines हैं, I guess they connect to what you just said. This is about doing something which is not ordinary, wherein you say that अगर चाहता तो बन बैठा होता बड़ी रियासतों का मालिक.
अगर चाहता तो बन बैठा होता बड़ी रियासतों का वजीर मैं. बट मेरे लहजे में जी हुजूरियाँ, मतलब जस्ट लिसनिंग एंड नॉडिंग योर हेड. अगर चाहता तो बन बैठा होता बड़ी रियासतों का वजीर मैं, पर मेरे लहजे में जी हुजूरियाँ न थीं, न हैं, न होंगी.
So I think this is the summary of what you are trying to pass on.
Absolutely.
Great. It was very nice talking to you, Santosh.
Wonderful, Arun. It was very, very nice conversation. Loved talking to you.
And I'm sure our audience would have gained a lot of knowledge and
Sure.
insights from the discussion. Thanks a lot.
That is what will make this conversation fruitful, if there is some learning for the audience.
Sure. Great. Thanks for being part of this show.